Imagine pulling up to a drag race in an RV. Sounds crazy, right? Well, back in the late 70s, one RV didn't just show up, it showed off. And it was one of the most bizarre, misunderstood, and fastest recreational vehicles ever built, the RecTrans Discovere. In the early 70s, motorhomes were more like rolling bricks than sleek machines. Then came the Discoverer 25, looking like it belonged in a sci-fi movie. Sleek, low-slung, and futuristic, this RV was just as fast as it appeared to be. We're talking about an RV that could actually surprise muscle cars of that era. Yeah, seriously, it was like the Corvette of campers. Now here's where the story gets even more interesting. The man behind it all, Seaman Bunky Knudsen, this guy had just been fired from his job as president of Ford in 1969. Most people would take a break or retire, but not Bunky. Instead, he joined White Motor Company and was asked to create something new for the booming RV market. Bunky brought in Larry Shinoda to handle the design. And if that name rings a bell, it should. Shinoda was the genius behind the Corvette Stingray, the Z28 Camaro, and the Boss 302 Mustang. Basically, he was the guy when it came to making cars look fast and feel even faster. Born to Japanese-American parents and interned during World War II, Shinoda had climbed his way up through the industry with nothing but talent and determination. Together, these two legends didn't just make an RV, they created a statement. The Discoverer was an aerodynamic, high-performance machine that looked like it belonged on a sci-fi movie set. Makes you wonder, how did something so wild and ahead of its time just fade away? Well, here's where the RecTrans story gets even wilder. After Knudsen and Shinoda teamed up, they brought in Jim Musser, a top engineer from GM, and officially launched RecTrans in November 1970. Pretty soon, the whole operation got folded into the White Motor Company. Knudsen became chairman of the board, Shinoda took over as VP of design, and Musser handled the engineering side as VP. But their mission, it was no walk in the park. They had to build a 10,000-pound motorhome that could hit 10 miles per gallon. That might not sound like much today, but back in the early 70s, for something that heavy, that was a seriously bold goal. Shinoda, of course, didn't follow the typical playbook. Instead of just guessing how to make it more efficient, he became the first guy ever to use wind tunnel testing for a motorhome. Yeah, wind tunnels, just like they use for race cars and fighter jets. He carved out a small 1:25 scale model of the RV and tested it at Fort Wayne University. The result was that sleek, curved, spaceship-like shape we now know as the Discoverer. It sliced through the air better than anything else on the road. And under the hood, this wasn't just some underpowered camper. Built on a bulletproof Dodge M300 M350 chassis, the same one used in heavy-duty Class A RVs, this thing was designed to take a beating and keep rolling. We're talking about a 413 cubic inch Chrysler RB big block V8, putting out up to 375 horsepower and a jaw-dropping 495 pounds per foot of torque. All that power was channeled through a 3-speed TorqueFlite automatic transmission. Now, here's the part that really seals the deal for any car lover. This 10,000-pound beast could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 11 seconds. That's quicker than a lot of sedans from the 1970s, and honestly, kind of humiliating for some muscle cars of the day. How'd it pull that off? Well, it came down to a perfect combo. Shinoda's sleek aerodynamic design, smart gearing, and that roaring 413 big block V8. Everything was working together to deliver not just power, but speed and efficiency. And get this, it actually hit its fuel efficiency target too. 10.1 miles per gallon. That might sound like a gas guzzler now, but for a massive RV in the early 70s, that was practically magic. The aerodynamic body shape definitely helped, along with the low ride height and special cast-type wheels. Underneath, it had tough Dana 70 rear axles, old-school leaf springs, and a front end borrowed from Dodge's B-Series tradesman vans. Even the cab sides were taken from B-body Mopars, which gave it a solid road-tested foundation. And the outside? Man, it looked like something out of a racing garage. That 25-foot fiberglass shell wasn't just lightweight and rust-resistant, it was stylish. They painted it up with bold, eye-catching body stripes in orange, green, or blue. And just to hammer in the speed theme, it even had hood pins. Like something you'd see on a muscle car, not a camper. Step inside the RecTrans Discoverer, and trust me, it's just as impressive on the inside as it is on the outside. This thing was like a luxury apartment on wheels. At 25 feet long, it had room to comfortably sleep 6 people. Yeah, 6. So whether you were hitting the road with family or just a bunch of buddies chasing sunsets, there was space for everyone. The interior had everything you need for life on the road. A full galley kitchen, a proper bathroom with a fiberglass shower, a double sink, a refrigerator, and even a cooking stove. And they didn't cheap out on the finishings either. Polyester carpeting ran through the cabin, giving it a plush, cozy feel. One of the coolest touches, a roof access hatch with an interior ladder. You could climb up and chill on the roof, perfect for those nights parked under the stars or watching a race from your mobile VIP box. Up front in the cockpit, the focus was all about driver comfort. It used a Dodge dashboard, and the front seats swiveled around, giving you great visibility while driving and letting you turn to face the living space when parked. It really felt more like piloting an aircraft than steering a bulky RV. In fact, one of the old brochures nailed it, saying driving the Discoverer is like piloting a jet, smooth, exciting, and effortless. And from what owners have said, that wasn't just marketing fluff. The thing really was a dream to drive. But here's a weird little detail that makes this RV even more unforgettable. It had something called a thermosan waste disposal system. Basically, instead of storing sewage in the holding tank, it burned the waste right through the exhaust system. Yep, incinerated it. No tanks, no dumping stations. It was a crazy idea, but it worked. And a few other high-end RVs like the GMC motorhome used it too. When the RecTrans Discovere rolled onto the scene, it didn't just turn heads, it dropped jaws. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. With its rounded aerodynamic body and space-age look, folks started calling it the Star Trek shuttlecraft on wheels. And honestly, they weren't wrong. This thing looked like it could lift off and fly into orbit, not just cruise down the highway. But the futuristic styling wasn't just about looks. Owners said it handled surprisingly well for something that size. It had great visibility, felt smooth to drive, and gave off serious luxury vibes. Compared to the usual boxy, awkward RVs of the early 70s, the Discoverer looked like a concept car someone accidentally released into the real world. It had style, presence, and a whole lot of attitude. And here's where the story takes a wild turn. Between 1971 and 1974, only about 3,300 RecTrans Discoverers were ever built. That's shockingly low for something that looked like it drove straight out of a sci-fi movie and performed like a muscle car in disguise. Priced at around $17,000 back then, it wasn't exactly cheap. But for what you got, it was a bargain. The RecTrans had big plans. The whole lineup included a smaller 22-footer and a massive 27-foot version. The 22 made it into limited production, built on a GMC C30 chassis with a 454 V8, but only a dozen ever hit the road. The 27 never made it past the drawing board. And then came Hollywood. In Slither, made in 1973, blacked-out Discoverers were used by villains as getaway rigs. They loaded it with dynamite for a movie scene, and it just wouldn't blow up. That fiberglass shell was practically bomb-proof. That same toughness means many Discoverers still survive today. And yes, there's a passionate Facebook group keeping the legend alive. More than an RV, the Discoverer was a rolling revolution that dared to dream. And briefly, it soared. So what do you think? Was the RecTrans Discoverer a genius move, or just a crazy idea way ahead of its time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. Enjoyed the ride? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next wild build. For more, check out the 6-door F650 here, or let YouTube pick one just for you. See you next time.